Welcome back to the Strong Opinion Hibs podcast. As always, I am your host, Jack, and today I'm joined by Charlie. Calvin, unfortunately, due to his work commitments, can't join us, but I'm joined by Charlie. So how are you, Charlie?
I'm good, mate. Obviously, we're going to be talking about the new manager, so I'm a wee bit excited to talk about that. But I'm good. Busy day at work, and literally just finished work and back home. So, ready for a chilled out evening. I think. Yourself, how are you?
Yeah, I'm fine, mate. Obviously, as Charlie hinted to there, we've got a little special episode for you today. Of course, it was announced this afternoon that Lee Johnson has been appointed as the new Hibs manager. So that's what we'll be talking to you about this evening, and commitment to the cause for Charlie there, rushing back home from work to get on and talk about Lee Johnson's appointment. So first of all, Charlie, what were your thoughts when you first seen the news that Lee had been appointed?
I think, like Ron alluded to in his presser earlier on, it was probably the worst kept secret in Scottish football. So I knew we all knew yesterday pretty much that he was going to get announced. So it gave me a wee bit of time to formulate an opinion. And to be honest, mate, I'm actually pretty happy with the appointment. I think John Dal Thomason was obviously touted as well, and that would have been probably my first choice. But when it broke that he wasn't coming, you look at the other names touted, I actually think Lee Johnson, when you look at the clubs he's managed before and what he's been able to do there, I think it's an exciting appointment. Obviously, time will tell, but I'm happy with it, mate. I think he'll get us playing some good football.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, my thoughts are just one of excitement. I think Lee's going to do a good job with us. Obviously, John Dal Thompson was touted. I never really thought that was going to come through. I think, as much as he seemed to have got quite far along in the interview process, I think he would have wanted a far too big pay packet, if you ask me. People seem to forget there's a lot more money even in Swedish football than there is in Scottish football, and Malmo are a big club in Sweden. I'd say if you're comparing them to a side in Scotland, Malmo are like Rangers, where they're regularly either runners up or winning the league, and they win cups a lot and everything like that. So I think coming from a team of that level in Sweden, who, bearing in mind, regularly qualify for the group stages of European competitions as well, it was going to take a lot to tempt them in. So I sort of doubted we'd get John Dal Thompson. Lee Johnson, again, he wouldn't really have been my first choice, but I think in the end, Ron said ever since we sacked Sean Maloney that we wanted experience, and Lee Johnson's got that. Lee Johnson's got experience, a decent pedigree down south in England, with some big old clubs. You look at some of the clubs he managed: Oldham, Sunderland, Bristol City. They're big traditional names in England. Sunderland especially. You've got to remember that Sunderland, despite where they are now, they're a big club, Sunderland, with a very proud history. So he knows what it means to come into a club that's got that big history. So yeah, I think I'm really excited about Lee Johnson. When you compare him to some of the other names that were being touted, like Appleton, Malky Mackay, Derek McInnes, I think we've avoided a PR disaster with some of the names that were being thrown about, and B, I think it's going, I think for me it's going along the right lines, because as much as maybe Jack Ross didn't have the best end to his time at Hibs, I think Jack Ross came from that sort of similar background to Lee Johnson, and Jack Ross worked out perfectly fine for us to begin with, and I like Lee Johnson's philosophy, which we'll go into a bit more later. So yeah, overall I think I'm really excited, and I think he's going to build solid foundations. He's also, I've been speaking to a few of my mates that are Sunderland fans, and they said he's a guy that's very sort of wired into developing youth, which is what we need. You've got your young players like Melkerson, Hauge, Del Ferrier, even Josh Doig, still a young lad. So I think you've got a manager that wants to nurture those players and give young players a chance. I think that's really good, especially this sort of setup that we're building at the academy with Steve Keane as well. And obviously Steve will know of Lee from when he was down in England as well. So yep. I think it's good that you've got that relationship will be there. So obviously I'm really, really excited about that. And as you heard in his interview, he's wired into our ethos as a club as well, and he knows
he's very attack minded. One thing that really sold me on Lee Johnson was when he said in his interview that I don't want to have possession for possession's sake, and I think that excites me, because I think he is going to want to take the game to teams, but I also think he's going to be happy to sit in and catch them on the break. And I think that's maybe where we've went a wee bit wrong this season, or the season just past there, that we've been very possession heavy and we've done nothing with the ball. But I feel like Lee Johnson's going to instill a philosophy of, right, we get the ball and we do something with it. We don't just pass it about. We look to take it to teams. And I think, we'll see that I think the League Cup's a good benchmark for that, as his first relatively competitive games, because pre-season friendlies mean nothing really. So I'm excited by his interview, mate, and I think he's saying all the right words, and I think he means what he says. I don't think he's a man who'll come in and make false promises. I think we'll see us scoring a lot of goals this next season and the next couple of years that he's hopefully with us.
Yeah, 100%. I think I completely agree with you, Charlie, that he was making the right noises in his interview. For me, you're talking about that. I want to pick up on that point in possession, and I was actually going to mention it as well, that I think specifically under Maloney, I think Maloney was far too wired into that possession football, and it doesn't work. You can have all the ball you want, but at the end of the day, it's putting it in the back of the net that counts. I mean, Christ, some of the games we lost, we were having like 60-70% possession, and we were still getting beat. So, I think the key example of that was Livingston. I'm pretty sure we had about 65% possession when we got beat 3-2 by Livingston at Easter Road.
Went to Celtic Park, got beat 2-0 and had 65%. Or we had more, I think it was in the 60s we had, but...
Yeah, most of the games we got beat, we were in the 60s, mid 60% possession. So it proves that possession means nothing. I mean, look at it when we had Neil Lennon. For example, game we beat Rangers at Ibrox. Was it 2? The one where McLaren scored the penalty.
2-1.
2-1. Yeah, we had hardly any of the ball in that game, and I think that's what we need. I think that's when we're at our best. Is what Hibs have never been a sort of possession football team. We've always been a bit gung ho and throwing everything at it, and that's when we've been at our best.
Yeah.
So I think Lee Johnson bringing in that philosophy, I think he gets it. And you look at his Sunderland team, for example, they were getting some big wins. I mean, you're looking at 4-0 wins semi-regularly, which is, we could only dream of that this season with us. So
I think on that, I agree with your point there, Jack. I think as well, though, like, he did take a few drop-ins as well with that sort of, which
you play open football like that.
You play open football, you're going to leave yourself a wee bit exposed at the back. But I think it is like, we didn't see that often enough with Hibs winning games 4-5-0. Like, and I think if we can get that right with the right players coming in, then I'm all for that. Like, I want to leave Easter Road after a 5-0 win. Like, no after a boring 1-0, or like, I want to leave Easter Road be like, oh, I watched some good football today. We won 3-0 and we played them off the park. Like, I want this, and I'm, like I say, I keep banging on. I'm excited about the foundations he's going to set. I think we've got this one right. Obviously, time will tell, but I think we've got this one right.
100%. And I completely agree with you there about the wanting to, come away Easter Road with that feeling of getting a big win, because even though it was the last game of the season, beating St Johnstone 4-0 was a great feeling. The same, like, obviously the Ross County game at the start of the season, we beat them 3-0. It's a fantastic feeling to come away knowing you played confidently and, you got that confident win. And I think it does really, really feel good.
Yeah.
And obviously we've not experienced that in a long, long time. So I think that's what's good about Lee Johnson. I know I've repeated myself a few times on this, but it feeds into the fact that he's wired into what we're about as a club. And he wants to bring something. So I agree with you, Charlie. I'm really, really excited for what Lee Johnson is going to bring to us as a club. Now, obviously, we'll take a quick look at the stats. I've been busy getting all the stats together for Lee Johnson. So we'll start off with Oldham Athletic. So at Oldham Athletic, Lee Johnson won 37 games, drew 29 and lost 37, which gave him a final win percentage of 36% at Oldham Athletic. At Barnsley, he won 23, drew 10 and lost 18, which gave him a final win percentage of 45%. Bristol City, he won 84, drew 53 and lost 80, which gave him a final win percentage of 39%. And at Sunderland, he won 41, drew 17 and lost 19, gave him a final win percentage of 53%. So his total win percentage over his 448 games in management is 41%. So Charlie, what do those stats there tell you about Lee Johnson as a manager?
He's won nearly 50% of his games in management. So that excites me. And I think the win and loss are pretty close together. So I think we'll probably see a lot of that at Hibs. I think where I'm getting a 4-year deal, I think we'll see him for 4 years. And I think it'll be very close number wise. Like you look at, I don't know, Jack, if you know based on the stats there, what the longest he's been at a club management wise is.
It'll be Bristol, I think.
I think and I think he's infamous for putting Man United out in the League Cup and when he was Bristol manager. So I think he'll get us competing. I think it's good stats like for his management career to have nearly 50% of a winning record. Like that's decent for the job he's coming into. Like I think he's obviously going to back himself to win games. Like he said that in his interview earlier. Like we're gonna go into games expecting to win, especially against the big teams, which is what I think we struggled with under the past 2 managers. And I think if he can get that right, then he wins the crowd over. So I'm excited by those stats. Like I think you look at Hibs and you look at Sunderland. Like I think very very similar fan bases. Like the Sunderland fan base will turn on a manager pretty quick, and the Hibs fans will definitely turn on a manager
on them before they even get appointed.
Like so, I think he's almost starting 1-0 down, but I think he'll win it. I think he'll win the crowd over. But like I say, it all depends on get the results, get the signings, and I think get those 2, and Easter Road will be packed.
Yeah, 100%. And just obviously we were having a bit of a debate there based on the stats. Which club was at the longest? I can reveal it was Bristol City. He's there for 1,609 days in charge.
So I'm hoping that it's the same. Like I'm hoping we don't go through this circle, like this circus, because I think we need to give them time. Like I think Ron said he was the most experienced manager that applied for the job, so obviously that speaks volumes. So I'm hoping we get to see the fruit of that, and just like I say, mate, I just want Hibs to be a winning team. Like I don't really care if say we win 5 1-0s in a row, boring football. Ideal we've won 5 in a row. Like that's what I want from my club. Like I want us to be a winning team. I don't care if we have 10% possession and we still win. Like Johnson said, I want us to be a winning team. I want us to score goals, and I think we've got the right man for that.
Yeah, the other thing for me is looking at those stats. What it tells you is obviously he can get consistent results in competitive leagues. League One and the Championship are 2 of the most competitive leagues you're going to find. Championship especially, Bristol City. It's not an easy place to manage. I think a lot of people saying Heckingbottom 2.0. Heckingbottom was most of his time in and around the bottom half of League One and League Two, whilst Lee Johnson's been at the upper end of that.
Yeah, he's got good experience as well, mate.
Exactly.
He's worked with the City group, so and Pep Guardiola commended him for his management style. So like, hopefully uses some of those connections to bring in. Like we don't know who his coaching staff is. We know David Gray's part of that, but we don't know who the assistant is. We don't know who the others are. So it'll be interesting to see who comes up there. But I think it's exciting times, mate. I really do.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's it. We were talking earlier about, Ron needed to get this right, and I think he has. For me, it's all about, we found a coach that is experienced, good pedigree at a good level, like I was saying earlier, and that's it. I mean, look at that, but like I said, Bristol and Sunderland, 2 big clubs in England, and he's done a decent job. Like I said, that Man United, famous Man United win for Bristol City, and it feeds into something that Lee said, and that's really brought me on. So he says, I'm not going to be afraid when we go in and play the big boys. He says, we're going to go into every game and we're going to expect to win it. I think that's a problem, is Jack Ross and Maloney, I think, had a bit of fear for me against the Old Firm. Lee doesn't have that.
I think it's exciting when he says that, and I think the first couple of games, the Jack Ross, Maloney were both marked on how they done in the big games, and I think Lee Johnson will be the same. Every Hibs manager is the same, but I think if
on how you do against the Old Firm.
See if we play, and your Hearts and your Aberdeens as well, like the first 4 games, if we win, I would say if we win 2 of them, then we're flying. Like he'll he'll be back to the hills. But if we lose the first 4 of them, it's not going to be easy for him. But I'm confident in his ability as manager.
Yeah, so am I. I genuinely think he's going to get us to where we need to be, and hopefully he's back. I think that's the big thing. Is transfers are going to be huge for us. There's a bit of a rebuild needing done, and he needs to be backed properly. I think by the way Ron was speaking in the press conference today, I think Ron sounds like he's going to back him, which is good. Obviously, Lee's going to be, as it said in the statement released by the club, Lee's going to be at the forefront recruitment-wise, which is good. That's glad because I think that's what sort of short-changed both Jack Ross and Maloney a little bit. Is obviously Jack Ross wanted players and didn't get them. Maloney, most of his signings weren't picked by him.
Yeah.
So they were signings that were obviously going to be brought in with the intention of Jack still being here, and Maloney just signed off on them. Which I think was something he was frustrated about. If you ever spoke to him or when he spoke to the press, you could tell he was frustrated with that. I think it's good that they've obviously learnt from that and going, right, Lee will have full control here. And obviously Ian Gordon and Ben Kinsell will advise or will be involved in those discussions. But at least Lee Johnson's going to have the final say, and he's going to have the sort of main, sort of decision-making ability in that situation, which I think is key. So you'll be getting his signings, which is good, and there's some gems in the Championship in League One. Some absolute gems.
We've already got one coming up, mate, and I think it's well known that David Marshall is just waiting to be signed off by a manager. So there's the first step in that, and I think it'll be interesting to see who he brings in.
100%. I think it will very, very. So obviously David Marshall looks like that's more or less a done deal. And then hopefully he sort of looks around players he played against at Sunderland and Bristol and goes, I like him. Let's get him in. Let's get him through the door. I think that would be absolutely key for us. Yeah. So just to finish up, this brief little, review. Well, we'll say review into getting Lee Johnson, Charlie. I was trying to find a word there. What do you think the future holds? Just to briefly sum it up.
I think it's going to be exciting football. I think we'll see Hibs being at the right end of the table again, and I think we'll be competing for the trophies.
Yeah, I'm the same. I think we'll be competing for European football. Maybe not necessarily third, but I think we'll definitely in our first season under Lee Johnson. Maybe I know this is sort of coming into the season preview stuff, but I definitely will sort of be in and about competing for the European spaces. Maybe competing for the Scottish Cup, definitely in the League Cup. I think you look at how he did in the sort of minor cup competitions with Sunderland. He won Sunderland the Papa Johns. Yep. So I think he does well in these sort of minor cup competitions. I think I agree with you, the League Cup group stage is going to be a big one for him. So I think he'll do well in the League Cup, do well in the Scottish Cup, and I think we'll be in and about the European places as well. But exciting times.
I think the last thing I would say is as well is I know we said it with Maloney, but the fans need to back him. Take the ex-Hearts connection and ram it. We need to get behind them.
4 games, by the way. I just like the point.
I know.
4 games.
I know. We need to back them. We need to make sure that Easter Road is well attended, because that'll be it. If results didn't go our way, we'll see it be a graveyard. But I think get behind the manager, get behind the team, and we'll see what good comes of it.
Yeah, I just like to say that as well. Obviously, if people follow me on Twitter would have seen my comment that we've just got to back Lee from the beginning. I think the way some of our supporters have reacted hasn't been great. People cancelling season tickets and everything like that. And that
to be fair, mate, it makes it easier for us to get tickets for Tynecastle now. So
well, everything has a silver lining, doesn't it? But I think definitely just give me the full backing, because as we've mentioned here very briefly, he's got a good pedigree. He's got a good vision. He's going to have us playing attacking football. I think we're going to get the football that we want to see. Obviously, Hibs fans, we have a very set idea. We call it the high B way, and I think he's going to bring that in there. Definitely, the fast flowing attacking football. It matches in with what the owner. And that's the key thing is I think his football philosophy is very much in line with Ron Gordon's, which is very, very good. If you have that relationship with the owner, then you're bang on the money. So from us at the podcast, just like to wish we all the best and a massive welcome to Hibs, and hopefully we're going to have a good season. So thank you for listening, guys. Hopefully you will all go and back Lee Johnson's Green and White Army. But thank you for listening, folks, and until next time, Glory, glory to the Hibs.